Welcome back to the Iconic Podcast and the conversation that, frankly, I avoid often. And I avoid it simply because the level of responsibility that's attached to talking about money. And 20 years in, the things that I see that are so inspiring and fill me up too and fire me up, and yet at the same time are not always realistic or full truths. And I also never want to come across as someone who is stepping on your momentum or your desire or your dreams. I want you to go and soak in everything that's humanly possible for you. So I am going to trust in us that if you're listening to this podcast, you know me at this point. And if not, go listen to podcasts to get to know me. I'm going to trust you and I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to trust that we can have a conversation today that both inspires you, but then also grounds you. That's really my hope. Because grounding doesn't mean stall, delay, lack, or the difference of momentum, like the opposite of momentum. Grounding to me means steady, legacy, wealth, liberation, truth. And that's who I desire to be in this conversation with you today. You see, money for me has been a bit of a up and down journey. I have not always had a great relationship with money. I was raised where there was never enough. And outside, it looked like we had everything that you could imagine. It was a beautiful life. We had the things. But inside, I saw stress. I saw not enough. The conversations were never around abundance or how can we acquire more. It was always around we don't have enough, we don't have enough. And so I really soaked that in. And what it instilled in me is a fear around money later in my career, not initially, but later in my career of, oh my gosh, is it going to leave? Like I've created this wealth. Is it going to stay? This fear of it leaving me. And I'm going to talk about that today. I also let's be real. I was raised in the church and raised in the church, the conversations around money, again, are rarely through the lens of abundance. It was told that, money is the root of all evil. Money would change me, that people who have money aren't good people. And so the idea of holding money and being with money was a very scary thing for me. I didn't want to be evil. I didn't want to be someone that was greedy or that didn't give. And so when I started to receive money early on in my career, I didn't know I was doing this. It was subconscious, but I would get rid of it as fast as it would come. I was overly generous. And I'm sure you've heard this in my podcast before, but it's what created $100,000 in debt. As soon as I received it, it was like, how quickly can I get this out of my bank account? Because my subconscious mind believed that money in my hands could potentially make me evil. So I got rid of it and I gave it, and I was very generous. And that's the positive side of the story is I was a very generous person. People really did, receive a lot through my generosity. But it led to debt because I didn't learn how to hold it. I didn't learn how to be comfortable with it. I didn't learn that I could be a really good servant leader with money and wealth. And so that was a really big journey for me. And I know that we're going to have ourselves on one of the sides of that equation. I just happen to live in both. And again, that's where I'm very honest about my journey. I have not really figured it all out. I'm on my own personal growth journey with money and wealth. And I actually believe that that might be common for most of us because as we receive more, we have to adjust and we have to build our identity towards this new level of wealth. And who are we and what are we going to do with that and how are we going to steward it and how are we going to overcome these new fears because they're often exchanged. So the biggest lesson I remember learning recently that I wanted to start this with, I sort of want to start with where I am today and work backwards. I was talking to Sanira, if you've not listened to that podcast about, being a $1 billion blueprint and the fact that she scaled a business to $1 billion, sold it, and is scaling her second $1 billion business. It had been a while since I was in conversation with a $1 billion business owner. And what she was sharing was how this is actually something that we could all acquire. Like there's truth to this, that this isn't unattainable. Not everybody wants to build a $1 billion business, but if you do, you can. And here I'm the example that it's possible. But I had this realization, this aha moment in real time with her where I realized I had created another identity ceiling for me. So, when I first started entrepreneurship 20 years ago, the big conversation was a six-figure business. Like, if you could build a six-figure business from home, you were rolling in it. Like, this was unheard of. And 20 years ago, that was a really big deal. Fast forward, we now talk about million-dollar businesses through the same lens with the same context. And we've just created another glass ceiling. But I remember when I hit that first $100,000 year, I thought I'd made it. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even start to build a six-figure business. I started to create $2,000 a month to give to my home and create some financial freedoms as well as travel and some experiences that I really wanted to give to my family. And I superseded that quickly and then scaled towards that six-figure business. And it took me a while. But when I got there, I remember thinking, this is it. But it wasn't it. Yes, I had reached this amazing summit, most that people were still trying to acquire for themselves. But I had looked at the summit, I got there and looked out and realized, oh, wait, there's all these other mountains on the horizon. I didn't reach this pinnacle place in my career where you stay here. I mean, as a matter of fact, the more success you have, the more that is required to sustain and hold it and maintain that success. So that was a really shocking moment for me where I was like, oh, I got here, it's amazing, and I did create a lot of freedoms for myself. And it is a very sweet spot if you're looking for extra income on the side. A six-figure business really does change the trajectory for many people's homes and lives, especially as a secondary income. But it's not the end result or it's not the finale. It's just that first chapter, that graduation. And I feel like at the $100,000 marker, a lot of people make a choice. They make a choice to keep that business, that sweet business that they have that's giving them money to travel or buy the boat or do those extras. And again, that's such a beautiful thing to have in your life. And then there's other women who decide, if I could do this, what else is possible? They're hungry for more. And we have to shift our identity at this point because a lot of people plateau at the $100,000 mark. I plateaued at the multi six and I plateaued for a good 10 years. I giggle at it because at the time I was so frustrated. I was doing anything and everything to build to that $1 million business. I mean, you couldn't have come and like watched me and put anything against me in terms of work ethic and stewardship and learning and growing. Like I was in the deep end. And anything that was told to me, I turned around and I did it. I was just such a great student, but I was so frustrated at the plateau. I was making around 30, 40, 50K months. 50 was the top, 30 was like the low. I was somewhere in that range for 10 years. And I was dying on the treadmill. Now I giggle because I look back now and realize, oh my gosh, like the stability, the longevity, the legacy that I built. Like most people can't say that they sustained that level of income for that long, like month after month for 10 years. There's not an exception to that rule. I never dipped down below. It was just this place that I had acquired, achieved, but I was stuck there. And why I was stuck there was now looking back, my identity was so attached to money. My identity was so attached to the number, and it wasn't attached to the business and the growth and what was needed, and kind of searching and looking for the ways that I had to become a different type of leader or change some of my mindset. I was just so fixated on the numbers that I plateaued. That was the ceiling that I had hit with my identity. I put so much pressure on the number that I was almost like a force field pushing away the abundance because it wasn't through this like place of joy or excitement or pleasure. It was, I've got to, why isn't it? And I mean, imagine that energy every single day and not celebrating the fact that, oh my gosh, Jen, for 10 years, you've held multi six-figure business. You're traveling. You're putting your kids in elite sports. You've paid for your kids to go through post-secondary. You're a single income home. You've held everything. Like everything has been paid for and more. I couldn't even see that because I was so fixated on the number. So if you're plateaued right now in that window, let's say maybe it's getting to six figures because you've put this like pressure on the six figures, or maybe for you it's the million, you're putting the pressure on the million. If you've plateaued, I want you just to pause, sit back and look at like, what is my identity ceiling and what's happening here? What am I pressuring and what am I not enjoying in the meantime? So when I was talking to Sanira and she opened up the conversation around $1 billion businesses, I realized I did the exact same thing for $1 million. Once I reached that summit, I thought that something magical happens. I thought that at $1 million, because I had worked so hard, oh, I'm getting emotional. I worked 10 years so hard and got there and kind of thought, this is it. Like, this is what they talk about. You go to the beach and everything's just going to sustain itself. And I'm just going to have this abundance and this extra, and I'm going to be able to do these things. And I got to that summit and I looked at the horizon just like I did at the six figure and realized, oh my gosh, there's more mountains to climb. Now, that's choice. So I have to be honest about that. That was a choice. You don't have to choose to keep climbing the summits. I choose that because for me, I just want to skid to the end of my life. I want to see what's possible. I always want to play with my capacity. And I want to like flirt with God. And I often say to him, show me how good this gets to be. And it's not show me how good it gets to be simply around a dollar amount. It's more around the lifestyle, the availability, the good that I could do, the raises I could give the team, the experiences I could give to others, the generosity that could pour through me. That's what I crave. But I hadn't realized I had put a ceiling over me until listening to Sanira, because I had never considered $1 billion business for myself. I never saw myself as someone who could have the potential to grow $1 billion brand. And still, as I say that, I waver. I have a feeling in my spirit of like, come on. I mean, that's huge. I don't know if you understand the difference between a million and a billion, but it is like a universe away. It's a lot. But why do I feel like that's not possible for me? Where have I capped and give a ceiling to my identity? Where do I feel like I am not as worthy as the next person? And I share this with you not because I even crave $1 billion business. I don't know. I'm exploring that right now because, again, the thought had never even occurred to me. But as I sit with the idea, it challenges my identity, and it also shows why I, in some ways, have plateaued. Why I'm in this very comfortable millions of dollar businesses and why it hasn't necessarily gone to its next level. Where am I playing small? Where have I taken a seat of comfort? And so I want to challenge you with some of the things that I had to challenge myself with recently, because the dollar amount doesn't matter. We're having this conversation. It could be 100,000, it could be a million, 10 million, 100 million, a billion. It doesn't matter. What matters is abundance is your birthright. God desires for you to have a pleasure-soaked life. Money is not evil. And as a matter of fact, the more good people in this world who can touch wealth, the better off this world is going to be. So there's some responsibility in that. So don't get caught up in the numbers that I'm talking about. I'd instead like you to look at your own scenario. What is that number that you're fixated on? What's the pressure you're putting on around that? And where's your identity within that? Why does that number hold so much power? What do you feel is going to change when you get there? What do you feel is going to adjust for you when you get there? And then I want you to kind of ask yourself and contemplate these questions, because we talk about expansion in wealth. And I don't know if everybody understands what expansion really means. You've got to be an expansion. You've got to expand yourself. And I think a lot of us are like, I don't really know what that is. Like, is that a mindset? Is that manifesting more? Is that more belief? Is that more desire? Well, I don't know that money moves through just desire or just work ethic or just manifestation. Money moves through the person you're becoming, the identity truly. And so when I talk expansion, I want to give you actually the tangible things that need to be expanded so that you understand what that means for you. Because I don't know if we really fully understand it. So, expansion to me with wealth means that you're able to receive more without guilt. Do you subliminally, or maybe even openly, think that if I receive more, I'm taking from somebody else? If I receive more, there's hungry people in this world. And so that should go to them, not to me. And there's a level of guilt. If I receive more, what about this other person that's been doing it longer? Or what about this other family member who could use it more? Like, where's the guilt stemming for you? And how can you learn to hold more, receive more without guilt? The solution that I really learned through my own experience was generosity. Is that I know that if I'm entrusted with more and receive more, I don't need to feel guilt because it's to the betterment and benefit of everybody around me, as well as people that I don't even know. I know that it will move through me. I trust that I will not hoard it and keep it to myself. I know that I will bless others and look for opportunities to bless others. So there's my expansion. There's where I can melt away that guilt and start inviting in the receiving. The second way to expand is, how do you manage more without collapse? Wow, this was a difficult one for me. $100,000 in debt. There was no reason for it, really. Like, I still don't fully understand how I got myself there. But making $30,000 to $50,000 a month, how does one acquire $100,000 in debt? And how does one at the end of every month never have enough money left? I wasn't frivolous. I wasn't being just like almost like want to say like rude with my money. I wasn't buying luxury things and being over the top. I had just gotten myself in this place of giving, 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 not holding it to the point that it created debt. And that was just a cycle. Well, that's the collapse. When you receive more, when money comes into your world, when it hits your bank account, what do you do with it? Do you sit for a second? That's what I had to learn. I had to learn just to be with it. Like, hi, $70,000 hit my bank account this week. And it makes me cry because that's such a big blessing. I mean, most people don't even make that in a year. And I used to be the type that as soon as that hit, it was like, I'm going to go on a vacation. I'm going to pay off this. I'm going to do this. And it would just come and it would be gone. What I've trained myself to do is not have the collapse, but to hold it, sit with it, just let it be there for a minute. It doesn't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything with it. Let it sit there. Be with that $70,000. Steward it. What's important? How can I give back? How can I circulate this? How can I benefit the future of the business, the future of my family? How can I benefit the team? How can I benefit the brand? You see, that's how you learn to hold more wealth, by simply holding it. But that doesn't also mean hoarding it, keeping it, saving, never spending. That was part of my, I had post-traumatic debt syndrome. At some points I just was so afraid to invest because I was so afraid to get in debt again that I held it in a little bit too tightly where it stopped moving. So I had to learn to trust the movement. And when it came in, to hold it, be with it, grateful for it. Oh my gosh, this is absolutely incredible. I just want to be in awe of this moment and circulate for the betterment. And through that generous place of receiving and giving. But a lot of people, when they start making more, they start spending more. And I'm not saying don't spend, because I love to spend. What I'm saying is investing and spending, I have a podcast on that, are two radically different things. And so if you are the spender, you receive it and you start buying the things because it's new money, you're touching it and it's exciting and you want to go get the Louis bag and the red bottom heels. You want to go stay at this place and do all these things. I would suggest do one or two of those things, not all of it at once. Pace yourself, Hold it, be with it. Allow the money to sit there over the threshold of a month where you open up a month and there's a positive, there's cash flow in the bank. There's something really beautiful about that. Again, it's not holding it tight, it's not pushing it away, it's just being with it. That's expansion. The other thing is enjoying more without fear. I talked about the post traumatic debt syndrome. I had to learn to trust money and myself with money because when it started to come in a way that I had never experienced it, even this past week with the $70,000 deposit, you think to yourself, what if this goes away? What if this is it? I mean, those fears come forward. We're not immune to that. And success doesn't make you feel like money is just everywhere always. As a matter of fact, there's so many more responsibilities. As my brand grows, I'm paying for people to work on the team and I'm responsible for their families. I'm investing in the business to grow the business and to do something really amazing, iconic. And so I'm hiring people. I'm doing things before I feel ready. I'm thinking about my family and aging parents and my kids and things coming around the corner, the things that happen with the house. There's these fears, but there's also this knowing, and it's such a duality for me. I don't know if that fear is going to ever dissipate. I think there's also a level of appreciation with a hint of that fear of it could go away. I think to myself, maybe that's my way of being appreciative and responsible and grateful. Because if I didn't fear it going away and took it for granted, I think that's more of a scenario to see it move too quickly the other way than to be a little cautious and to just be aware of the wealth. So, how can you have more and not be riddled in fear? The only way I know how to do that is through gratitude. The only way I know how to do that is by having that level of responsibility and trust. So much trust. If I keep doing what I've been doing, I will keep getting what I've been getting. That doesn't mean a solid line. That doesn't mean a line straight up. It just means I can't take my foot off the gas because what I did to get here is what I have to do to keep it here and more. So that helps navigate the fear. It's the responsibility, the personal responsibility. That's the expansion. And lastly, sustaining it without burnout. I feel so many people are so afraid of being tired right now. So many people are paying more attention to regulating their nervous system than they are of being in the deep end of their dreams. Now, I've got clients that teach regulating their nervous systems, and that is so necessary for us, but it isn't the only thing we do in a day. And as a matter of fact, if you're in the deep end, there's going to be a dysregulated nervous system. What we have to learn is how to regulate the dysregulation. How do we move through this period or this moment or this hard or this circumstance or the thing today? It's not to keep my nervous system regulated all the time. It's to know when it's dysregulated, how to honor myself, how to care for myself in the moment. And so we are so afraid of burnout that you are not playing in the deep end of your dreams. You're not touching the wealth that is waiting. It's like hungry to pour over into you. It's like, I want to come. But you're so afraid of the work. You're so afraid of being tired. And I understand from hustle culture. I understand that we got exhausted. I understand the world wasn't built for women, and especially women with children who want to work and build thriving careers. I understand all of that. But if you've ever hit burnout, you know better, so you can do better. You're going to know the symptoms, the signs, and the clues. And so you can kind of pay attention to that in the moment and course adjust. It's not about preventing, it's about trusting yourself again. It's not about being regulated all the time. It's about knowing how to regulate in the moments where you're dysregulated. And it's going in the deep end of life. Wealth is not for the person who is rested on her couch with her candles lit, who has mastered manifestation. I'm sorry, that's just not the way it is. Wealth comes to the woman who knows how to be that while also gritty, tenacious, willing to have some sweat equity, willing to get the dirt under her fingers, willing to do what it takes. When you have both of those things collide, that's when you don't have to worry about the burnout. You've learned how to just master that swing of the pendulum because it's always going to be in motion and you're swinging back and forth. You just don't want the wild swings that take you in and out of your momentum. So you can be trusted. You can trust your business, you can trust the wealth, and it doesn't come with the sacrifice of burnout and overwhelm and lack of presence. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to suggest you get to have all those things while feeling the most alive you ever have. That's expansion. When I moved out of my own way from these things, when I learned what expansion actually was with wealth, when I understood the ceilings that I had put on myself, when I hit the 100, when I hit the million and beyond, those were major catalyst moments for me when it comes to money. I didn't wait to invest for the next level. I didn't wait to overcome all of these things in order to feel ready for the next level. I just started walking and moving forward. The word trust comes up over and over again in this conversation because so much of wealth has to do with trust. Trusting yourself, trusting money, trusting abundance, trusting that what you acquire is for the betterment of your life and others. Start dancing with it. Start flirting with it. Start understanding what expansion means when it comes to wealth. And understand if you're hitting a plateau right now, I guarantee it has nothing to do with your business and everything to do with an identity ceiling. It's time for you to up level. It's time for you to get out of your own way. It's time for you to understand that the money cannot surpass the woman you are. So it's about the becoming. Go, get it, be in the deep end, be curious, be open, and go build wealth. It's what's going to make your life feel so rich and also what's going to ultimately change the world.